Hey friends, Pastor Michael from Organic Church. We're excited for another season of growing together. We'd love to have you join us on Sunday mornings at 10 or Wednesday evenings at 7 for friends, family, and a whole lot of Jesus.
Welcome back, everybody. Once again, we are at Organic Church, and this is Growing Together, Season 4. And here we are again, ready to talk about some more. Hopefully, we got some more interesting topics for you. Of all the special guests that we've had here, this might be the topper. This is going to top them all. You know, if you were a listener early on, if you followed us at all, you might have heard once in a while our Margie Minute. Well, tonight we've got a whole hour of Margie because my beautiful wife, Margaret, over here is sitting here and she's ready to do her first podcast with us. I'm very happy to have her. So everybody out there, just give a fake round of applause, just take a moment because, this is a big one. And it took a lot of encouraging, did it not, Margaret?
It sure did.
Sure did. She's like, before we went on, she's like, are you sure you really want to do this? Do we really have to do this? I'm like, yeah, she'll be fine. You'll be fine. We're just talking. So it took quite a bit of encouraging to get you to come on here and help us keep this thing going. And she's always, when I get home, she always wants to ask, well, what was it about? What did you talk about? And was it good? And now you'll know firsthand how good it is because you're right here. So you're live, ready to go. So now, I guess the first thing that I probably want to say is that Margaret and I have been married for 7 years now? 7 years. Okay, so without a doubt, she is the strong-minded one of the family. She's the strong one. She's the one that always has a plan. She's the one that keeps the household going. She's the one with all the energy. A lot of times, she's got to keep me going. So that's the first thing is I'm a type of person that really likes to think about things a lot. I like to be in my own head a lot. I like to kind of get lost in thought and things of that nature. And you're more the type that, you want to act. You want to get things done. You don't want to do too much thinking about it when your mind's set on something. Let's go. Let's do it. There's no time to think about it or any of those things. So that's definitely kind of how we, how we defer a little bit. But I think we make a pretty good team, don't we?
I think so.
Think so? Yeah. So, So like any, husband and wife, we've got many challenges and, we have a very complex family dynamic. The family's starting to grow a little bit. We've got 1-year boys married and we've got 1 grandchild already. We got 1 on the way. So, the holidays are getting bigger. Family's getting bigger. So it's getting interesting. There's a lot of, like I said, there's a lot of dynamic to it now where like when we first got married, not so much. There were times I think we spent a lot of the holiday time by ourselves. So it's just interesting how fast that time has gone. And now we're kind of getting into that different kind of family dynamic where things are really kind of starting to take shape for us. So we're kind of excited about it, but it always comes with a certain amount of challenges, as I'm sure any family does. And that's what Margaret and I are going to be talking about for the next couple episodes. It's just kind of how God affects the family dynamic, how a family can be closer by faith and go through challenges together by faith. And we're actually going to use Abraham and Sarah to open this up and kind of give us this example of this complex family dynamic that took a lot of faith for them to grow and to do as God wanted them to do. Because whether you know it or not, people lived a lot longer back then. Mm-hmm. So, people live hundreds of years in early biblical times. So it's just interesting how we think of age and how we think of time, and the fact that in biblical times, and it may not even been, I don't know, I'm not really too sure about this. It may have been that they tracked the years differently. Maybe they weren't really hundreds of years old as we would think so. But that's how they kind of kept track of us. You'll notice in the early Old Testament, people are living for hundreds of years in a lot of cases. So I guess, Margaret, the first thing that I think we need to talk about is you have a very, very strong love for your kids.
Yes.
I would say you are a very involved mother in your child's lives. You're involved in everything. You're very hands-on with all your children, even despite the fact that, besides Maggie, they're grown boys, right?
I guess.
But you still have a hand on their lives, and you're always there for them. If they call, you're picking up the phone anytime. You're just a really hands-on mother. And I think you have a lot of passion for that. Like you just have a very strong bond with them. And I wonder, I guess first thing is, when you were young, how do you think the experiences you had when you were a child may have affected how you parented yourself? Like, do you think there was anything about that made you decide that, like, when I have children, this is how I'm going to do things? Or is it more just like does it come that natural to you that, you don't quite know where it comes from?
I don't know. Though, growing up, my mom was a great mom. She was always there for us. She did everything for us. So as a child, as a preteen, she was a great mom. They really didn't miss anything. But I feel like I fail my kids on a daily. And you know that about me.
Yeah.
Like, no matter how much I reach out to them, no matter how much I do, I think I should have done this. I should do so much more for them.
Yeah.
So I don't know. You saying all that's nice, but you know how I am, how I feel about myself. And even as a Mimi, I feel like I leave little Faye down all the time, and she's just so wonderful. But
well, and I think that was part of the attraction for me to you, was you reminded me so much of my mother, because my mom would do that all the time. It doesn't matter what she had done, no matter how well she tried to do it. It was always, do you think so and so is mad at me? Do you think they're upset with me? Did I not do enough? Did we, she always questioned that, how good of a mother she was.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I don't ever think the kids are mad at me or anything like that. I just think, well, maybe we should do more. Maybe we should get them more. Maybe we should step up more than we do. But I don't know that I've ever, Maggie, yeah, she's mad at me all the time, but she is 14. But the boys, I don't feel like they're ever mad at me. But those are my boys.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. I just do the best I can.
Yeah.
But they are my first and foremost. They are the most important things in my life.
Mm-hmm.
And I love you, but those kids.
Right. Yeah.
Those are my kids.
Yeah. And you're just very protective. Like your temper can go from 1 to 10 if you think those kids are being endangered at all, insulted at all, anything like that. You're ready to jump right in and defend them. Yeah. You're not the kind of like mom to be like, well, you got to figure it out for yourself. I think you're ready to jump right on the front line and almost do it for them.
Yeah, and that's how you wish I was. Like,
sometimes, because I think sometimes it's important, to let kids make their own choices, make mistakes.
Yeah.
That's definitely how, and maybe that's even more of a dad thing. But yeah, you are definitely just ready at any second.
Okay, speaking of your mom, would she have been the same way?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, she was that way. She was just, but she took it, like, as we were talking about, she took it upon herself. Like she would, if she didn't think she had done enough, in that regard, she would criticize herself. She'd feel bad. Like,
yeah.
I was like, Mom, I'm good. I'm okay. You
Yeah.
know, we're all right. And she would just still question, you know,
Did
that
I
she
do
could have done
enough?
more.
Or did I teach them the right things? Are they doing the things that they need to do to get through everyday life? Yeah. No,
Mm-hmm.
I think that's our job. And I mean, as far as just kids behaving, that's your job as a mother. You need to teach those children to sit. You need to teach your kids to behave. That's your job.
Mm-hmm.
And I know a lot of people would say, well, there's a dad. No, for me, that's mom's job.
Mm.
Do you know how I am? Like, that's just, I've always been the one to discipline my kids, that's just who, I think it's my personality too. It's not because their dad didn't do that. It was just me. That's just how I am. Like, I wanted my kids to behave, so they had to behave. I think that's how we were raised too. You know what I mean? Like,
Well, I was raised in a house where my dad was at work. Like he
Right.
worked afternoons, so it was mom every day.
yeah,
We saw dad on the weekends, but mom was, you know.
right. So, and if you didn't behave, a lot of times they would use wait until your dad gets home. Yeah, not that meant a whole lot. Sometimes it did. you know.
Sometimes.
Yeah.
Sometimes. But I think she was so good that there weren't a lot of those times.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
And in fact, I honestly, if I think back on it, we probably misbehaved more when he was there. Like come summer break when he'd be in there in the mornings before you go to work, it seemed like we wouldn't be on the best behavior. And maybe that had something to do with that. Like maybe because our mom was so good, we tried to be good for her.
Yeah.
You know, we tried not to be
Yeah.
too bad, you know, if we could help it.
And with dad down, I think moms put their guard down a little bit. Like,
Yeah.
it's your turn.
Yeah.
Hey, you're it.
Yeah.
You know, you take care of these kids. And then within a half a day, you're like, just go outside or something. The kids aren't listening. I have to take care of this myself. But
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I feel like I'm so blessed, though. You know, all my kids. I have such great kids. And the two boys have picked just wonderful women to marry. I mean,
They have.
Spencer's married to Shay, and Charlie will soon be married to Latris. And just two wonderful girls. I'm so happy with that. Now we just got to get Seth. Got to get himself a wonderful woman. And Maggie's only 14, so we don't even need to speak of that yet.
Nope.
But I do. I have great kids and great daughter-in-laws, and we've been blessed.
Mm-hmm. We have.
Yeah. We just need to get your son back around.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Talk
Right.
about, you know, well, what do you think? You know what a mom's role is. You've defined that pretty well. So what do you think the dad's role is in the family? I mean, what do you think a male should be doing with his family as far as leading the way?
I don't know. I never really
Never thought about it?
No, I mean, yeah, you guys are supposed to provide because I'm still, even though I'm going to be 48, I feel like women should be able to stay home and take care of their children. You shouldn't have to work. And I know this is a society where you're supposed to have two people working, but you can get around that. You don't have to have two brand new cars. You don't have to have a brand new house. You can wait to get all that after those kids are in school because that's very important for moms to be there with their kids. I think that's why so many kids are so well-rounded that are older than these younger kids because they had mom at home. Don't get me wrong. Some of us still mess up and have messed up big time. You know, we have siblings, we have cousins, we have everything that have been through really hard times. And they've probably had a mom that stayed home. So I'm not saying that's to fix all things, but I think if you're able to do that, that's one thing I think you should do. But few and far between have I ever seen men that are the leaders in church. As far as my family goes, you're the first one that has ever been that way with my life. My dad, I don't know that he even went to church every Sunday with us. It was mom that kind of pushed it, and it was more of a Sunday school thing. And then my ex-husband, he really didn't like going either. So that was always me. Hey, we're getting up, we're going to church. So, but I think that's a big thing. And I think that's wonderful when a woman can find a man that's like following God and wants to go to church. That's a big deal.
Mm-hmm.
But that doesn't happen very often.
No, you're right. Yeah, it is. I mean, we went to church when we were young, and I remember that quite vividly. I don't recall or feel that it was one or the other, you know, having more of an effect on that For some reason, to me, it seemed pretty equal. Maybe it wasn't. But yeah, my dad, he was very quiet. He didn't have a whole lot to say, but he did speak about God quite a bit. I mean, if you asked him or needed advice, sure enough, he would speak his faith. He would have things to say of that nature, Now, my mom, she was very upfront about it from the time we were little. And I remember, being very little, and saying the Lord's Prayer, and, her one saying, she told me until the day she died was just never turn your back on Jesus. No matter what you do, no matter what mistakes you make, no matter where you go, no matter how bad you think things are, no matter how good things are, just don't ever turn your back on Jesus. Like, that's the most important thing. And so she would talk about God all the time. So she was, and especially with her illness, she had her own set of challenges with that. But that faith would always shine through, and there was a lot of moments where, she'd be in remission, and then it came back, and she could be going through treatments, and they could be pretty rough on her. I mean, because back then they were really rough. The radiation and the chemo, I mean, it would knock her out for a couple weeks. And so sometimes right before that and during and after, she would take to her bedroom and we wouldn't see her. I mean, and think about that. Like, we had the perfect childhood, I would say, up to that point. We had like a Wonder Years type childhood. And then all of a sudden she gets this illness, she gets cancer. And then all of a sudden we wouldn't see our mom for weeks at a time. So there was just all this empty void. And, I had to learn to grow up really, really quick and do a lot of things and kind of be, I missed out on doing a lot of things a normal teenager would do. But a lot of times she'd go into that bedroom and you think she's never coming out. Like, this is the last time. And then sure enough, she'd come back out and she'd be just like a brand new person. She's like, I'm not ready to go yet. Or I've still got plenty to do. I want to see you kids grow up. I want to see you have kids. And it would just, if you needed to see faith, if you needed to see it, not believe it, for me, that was it. Like, yeah. It was almost like seeing somebody on the brink of death just keep coming back. And it was just like, how does she do this? But she would. And so that had a big effect on me. And my mom was that, like I said, my mom was that very hands-on mom who, she was always there. I mean, she never thought of herself or, left us behind to go do something. I mean, she was always there. So she was a very, very committed to motherhood. And my dad, I think, was committed to fatherhood, but, he worked on the railroad. He worked a lot of evenings. So yeah, we would see him on the weekends. And like I said, my mom was very vocal. She could speak her mind. My dad was very quiet. He was very reserved. So he didn't have a whole lot to say. But when he did, you could count on him to, you knew where he stood on things like that. So I think for them going to church, I think it was equal. It felt that way to me. And I know we went for quite a while and I think we did go pretty regularly until she got sick. So that's kind of what I remember as being a kid, and as far as my family situation with growing into, a young Christian.
Yeah, which is wonderful because my parents did not. They never spoke of God. And we did go to church very little. It was the Moravian church, and that was because Grandma went. And Grandma spoke of God, but not like just a little bit here and there, especially losing her son at 25. I mean, you'd hear a little bit about that. And so I think she had very strong faith. But my parents, that's one thing. I don't know if it was almost like taboo to speak of God, to speak of church, because nobody ever did. We never did until Aunt Florence opened a church, and then we all started going. And as a teenager, I started coming here in the youth group. I think that's where that opened my eyes to God, because we'd go to the Moravian church, and it was just fun. We learned a little bit here and there as kids, but nothing like this church, this Pentecostal church with Aunt Florence, and the way that woman loved everybody. It was that was eye-opening, because I love my parents. I love them to death, but they're not like that. They're just not very acceptant to most things and will love you through those things. Aunt Florence loved everybody through everything, always. And and so that's the same with her sisters. And that's why it's so hard for me to wrap my head around the way that my father is, because my aunts are just the most wonderful women in the whole world. And you know that. And if it wasn't for them, my life would be so much different right now, because they're just great women, and they follow God, every one of them. And I'm so glad they're my aunts, because I wouldn't be where I'm at today.
Yeah. Yeah, I know you and I were very connected. The fact that we both could talk about God, I think, was a huge factor for both of us.
Yeah, I've never had that before.
Yeah. So the fact that we could have that open dialogue was a big deal. But I do remember you started going to church, and I wasn't going with you at the time.
Right.
And I had reservations about it. Not to go into a long story, but I was still trying to fight my battle my own way. Like I just went through that period where I had so much disappointment and frustration that I decided to try to run my life myself. And that didn't work out too well.
Yeah.
Didn't work out at all. And I know you may have asked me to go a couple of times, and I didn't go.
Well, at first
and you started talking about this Florence. And you come back and you just be talking about this Florence.
Well, she wanted to meet you.
And she did. Yeah. And I was very like, I just don't know. I just felt like I was going to be judged. Like I was going to have that judgment. And I just wasn't ready for that. But I'll never forget the first time I met her. The look on her face was like somebody that was looking at me like I was the greatest thing in the world.
Make me cry.
like she saw all the potential that I had thought I'd lost. All the good things that I had thought I lost. I thought she was going to see everything that I thought I was at the time. And probably everything that I was at the time. But she didn't. She saw everything that I was before I let myself, get so run down and lose my self-esteem and all those things. And she just looked up at me, like I was the greatest thing in the world. And the moment she started talking to me, it was just like, you knew like this woman had God's love in her heart.
Oh yeah.
And she wanted to do whatever she could to get me back. To get me back right. She didn't need to know my story.
No.
She didn't need to ask me questions or, dive really deep into it all. She just immediately was like, yep,
And she
just
and as you saw her with people through the years, that's how she treated everything.
Yeah.
She would hug you and say she loved you. Didn't matter what you were going through. Because we all have our struggles daily.
Yep.
Daily, we all have our struggles.
Yeah.
But that woman, she I just can't say, because she was that wonderful.
Yeah, she was. She was. And we still miss her. Between her and my dad, passing almost very close.
Yeah.
There was two big losses for us.
What was it? October and then February?
October and February.
Lost them both.
So, yeah.
Because
just when we were finding our footing, kind of getting, the momentum going, and then, we had both of those and but I don't think, but that didn't crush us. I mean, we were obviously,
I was just going to
we were, obviously sad and, just couldn't believe that we had lost both of them, but we weren't like crushed. We weren't, it didn't stop our momentum. Like what she was doing, I think the way that she treated me and the way my dad treated you, it just, like it carried us right through, even though we lost him, it carried us right through. Because then we were just able to talk about him all the time. And
yeah, absolutely.
So, they definitely had.
And we know where those two are. We know where they are.
Yeah.
And those were some special
Without
people.
a doubt.
Yeah.
Yeah. Two very kind people that never
loved everybody.
Loved everybody.
Loved everybody. It's the same for your dad. The first time he met me, I was nervous about the whole situation just because of our situation. And he hugged me.
Yeah.
And he loved me from day one. He treated my children like they were his grandchildren. He didn't have to do that. He did it. And they loved him. My kids loved him. My nephew TJ was just crushed.
Oh, bawling at the
when your
funeral
dad
home.
passed. I mean,
And it's not like he spent a whole lot of time with him.
That
he really
just
did.
shows you how Jeep was.
Yeah.
Like people could feel the love from that man.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So we definitely, as hard as our life has been, we've been blessed with so many great things.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Well, it just goes to show you that when you have people of God who love you and are hovering over you, looking after you, it just makes up for so much.
Yeah.
Really does. So I wanted to talk about Abraham and Sarah a little bit, because it's a pretty, like I said, we're talking about family dynamics, and it's a really interesting story. Because God is eventually going to call on Abraham, to lead his people. But if we just narrow it down to Abraham and his wife Sarah, really interesting thing is early in the Bible, Abraham's name is just Abram. And Sarah's name is like Sarai, like Sarai. So they have these different names. And I think it's when God decides that Abraham is going to be ruler of all people, he's going to be the head of all people, there's a significance to that extra A that makes him Abraham, because now he's going to be, head of all. And he also changes Sarah's name as well. So in the Bible, it says, Abram, now you're going to be Abraham. Sarai, now you're going to be Sarah. So he calls that out and gives them new names.
I love that about the Bible, because when they do that, you know me, I don't retain names anyways. And then they start mixing it up. I'm like, oh my gosh, so hard to follow. But yeah, that happens a lot in the Bible.
Yeah. So Abraham, the first interesting thing about Abraham is he's told to just, during the great famine, he's told to pick up everything, his family and everything, and go to Egypt. And you got to think about that. Like, okay, you're asking me to move away from everything I've ever known, everybody else, just everything, and trust that I'm going to this foreign land to survive and to do as God wants you to do. So, and in total, and that's the most important part, is just as we talked about Noah building the ark, on a mountain with no water around him, he does this in total faith. And the same thing with Abraham. He picks up and he moves in total faith and does what God tells him to do. Now, there's one difficulty in Abraham and Sarah's relationship, is that Sarah cannot bear a child. So they go years and years and years. And all the while, the Lord's telling him, like, Sarah, you will be with child. And at one point, she actually laughs at God, like, what would make you think that I would have a child? I'm like 90 years old. Like, my time has passed. So when Abraham and Sarah really think that their time has passed, Sarah comes up with this idea okay, I have this maidservant, Hagar, who, it's interesting because she's described as an Egyptian servant. And I would love to know how she came to get an Egyptian servant. You think it would be the other way around, but somehow she acquired. Bible doesn't tell us how Hagar came to be a servant under Sarah, but there she is. And Sarah comes up with this idea, which they say was quite normal at the time. Since I can't bear a child with Abraham, Hagar, I'm going to give you to my husband as a midwife, and you are going to basically have my baby. So Hagar agrees to it. She probably didn't have much choice anyway. If she's a servant, she's probably told to do it, let's face it. Abraham agrees to it. So Hagar and Abraham lay with each other, and they have a child, and they have Ishmael. And so right off the bat, think about that. Now there's an interesting family dynamic to think about, is now you have, I don't know if, obviously Sarah had a lot of mixed feelings about this, because I'm sure that she felt very, just, it's hard. Maybe you can describe how Sarah would feel if you couldn't have a baby, then you got to bring this other woman in to do it. How would you feel?
Well, no, that's what I was going to say. I suffered through infertility for 3 years before I had my twins. And all you want is a baby. After you go through so many years, and she went through way more years than I did, you want a baby so bad. Like, I can imagine doing the same exact thing because as a woman, I guess not all women feel that way, but as a woman, that's who you are. That you figure, and that's just how you feel inside. Like, I'm here to have a baby. I've always felt that way since I was a teenager. That I want to be a mom. That's all that I ever wanted was children. And
So you didn't grow up thinking I want to be a nurse or I want to
absolutely
be
not. I
an
wanted
athlete
to be a
or
mom. I wanted to be mom. That was it. I wanted a baby. I just wanted to be a mom. And then when I got married, and it took years, and I suffered through infertility, and I saw people having babies, and then you just sit there and cry because what did I do wrong that my body doesn't work properly? So you go through all of those things. And luckily for me, it wasn't a big process. I have 4 beautiful kids now, but I did suffer through that. So I get it. I get how she felt, and I would have probably done the same thing, to be honest, because then you didn't have infertility doctors. You didn't have everything they can do that they do today. So that was the only way. And again, I don't know that every woman feels the way I feel, but I would have felt that way. And then you would have had all those emotions, like my husband just laid with her. So you'd have that all in the back of your head. But you would have a baby.
Yeah. Plus, this woman's sticking around. She's not going anywhere. It's not like she, did the deed and like, okay, well, good luck. No, I mean, she's there almost to be raise the child as well.
You have surrogacies where they will have the baby and then they leave. They're out of the picture. So that would be hard because you're not the mother. You're just a second woman there taking care of that child. But it would still be a baby. So it would still be a blessing. For me, that's how I would look at it. Again, I know not all women are like me, but that is exactly how I feel. If I could have had 6, 8 kids, I'd have had more kids.
Yeah, and the Bible tells us that the moment when Hagar's pregnant, even Sarah starts to despise her. So just the simple fact that, this woman can do this and I can't.
Yeah, that was what I was going to say. That's what it was. And then you beat yourself up because why isn't my body able to do this? How did she get to do that so fast? And even me to this day, and I hear people, I want to have a baby, and the next month they're like, I'm pregnant. There's still even almost like a jealousy factor for me to this day because that wasn't me. That was never me.
Yeah. Well, and she's got to know, Abraham, I'm sure, has told her, like, God has came to me and told me, that I'm going to be the leader of all these people and we're going to be highly blessed. And she's got to be thinking, well, what are you talking about? Like, how could we be so blessed when I can't even have a child with you? Why wouldn't if the Lord's going to give us all of these people, why wouldn't he give us our own child? So you can definitely understand how she would have felt. I don't know if she'd have felt a little isolated in the moment. Like, okay, Abraham's got his mission and he's blessed, and now Hagar's having my baby, and what am I doing? Like, what's my place in God's kingdom? I'm here to raise somebody else's child, basically. Like, I guess I could see how she would have laughed in the face of God, thinking, yeah, okay, 90 years old now, and really, there's no way I'm going to have this baby. It's impossible at this point. Looking at all the rules laid out, looking at how life's supposed to work, she's like, she can't possibly see that.
Well, yeah, and that's the way that God has wired us as women. We're nurturing. We want babies. Our body is just. It's set up that way with our hormones and everything. So I can just imagine how she felt. Because as much as you want heaven and you want to follow God, and we just have that in us that we want babies. And again, I'm not speaking for all women because I know that that's not how every woman, but I'd have to say a majority of us, you have that inside you. And it's the greatest thing in the world is to be a mother, to have your baby, and to even be pregnant, I thought was just wonderful. So that had to be rough on her.
Yeah. And she actually she even kind of gets so angry, she's blaming Abraham for it. And she's going to get so mad that she's going to send her servant away. She's going to get so angry with her that it's going to cause her servant to run away. And God's going to have to bring him back into the fold, saying like, go back to Sarah, continue to be her servant, continue to be faithful. Ishmael is going to have blessings too. He's going to have blessings, and it's your place to go back and do as you're supposed to do. So God actually comes to Hagar and makes her return to Sarah. And I think it's yeah, so he's telling Hagar that also, I will so increase your descendants that they will be too numerous to count. The angel of the Lord also said to her, you are now a child, and you will have a son. You shall name him Ishmael. For the Lord has heard of your misery. He will be a wild donkey of a man. His hand will be against everyone, and everyone's hand against him. And he will live in hostility toward all his brothers. And she says, you are the God who sees me. For she said, I have now seen the one who sees me. That is why the well was called Bir-Lai Roy. It is still there between Kadesh and Bered. So Hagar bore Abraham a son, and Abraham gave the name Ishmael to the son she had born. Abram was 86 years old when Hagar bore him Ishmael. So the thing about this is the first part of this dynamic. Well, what's gonna happen is, I believe when Sarah finally becomes 90 years old and Abraham is over 100 years old, God is finally going to bless Sarah with a child. And I do believe it's this point when he's telling her that she's almost laughing at him. And she'll have a child and she'll name him Isaac. And they say that Isaac comes from, it almost means to laugh, to be happy. And so some people think, oh, she named him Isaac because, she had laughed at the Lord, thinking it was impossible to have this child, and then he's born. But the dynamic is going to get more complicated, because once Isaac is born, now Isaac becomes the favorite, and Ishmael is kind of going to be pushed aside by Sarah. So she's really going to hover over Isaac as maybe any mother would in that situation. And so she's going to kind of make a few missteps as far as, making those kind of decisions as a mother. And it's interesting to think that she must know, I think she knows now that that her and Abraham have actually had a son. Now, instead of Ishmael inheriting everything from Abraham, it will be passed on to Isaac. So now he's going to be, he's going to be the one that inherits the kingdom, so to speak. So perhaps she would be a lot more protective towards him because of that. There's the Bible tells us a lot of stuff, and then there's some interesting things sometimes they leave out. Like I said, we don't know how Sarah ended up having a maidservant in the first place. The second thing I find very interesting is, whether you know the story or not, when the Lord comes to Abraham and tells him that he has to sacrifice his son, Isaac, there's no record of what Sarah has to say about it. I find that very interesting. How would you feel as a mother if not, as I just said? I think maybe to go into this a little bit more, one of the things that happens is that at some point Ishmael teases Isaac in front of a group of people. Like, she catches him in a moment teasing Isaac, and this enrages her, and so she wants Ishmael to leave. So it seems like, I don't know, that seems like such a petty thing. I mean, kids are kids, they tease each other, things like that happen, but she seemed to be so enraged by that. So the Bible tells us that. But when it's time for Abraham to take that journey and sacrifice his son Isaac, does he tell Sarah that's where they're going? Does he make up, I want to say a lie, but does he tell her, yeah, we're going to sacrifice a donkey, or we're going to sacrifice all this stuff? We'll be back. The Bible doesn't tell us that, but I want to hear from a mother. Okay, so what if your husband would have came to you and said, okay, this is a child that we've waited our whole lives to have together. And yes, the Lord has told us a lot of things, and all those things have come to pass. Here's the next step. Like, the Lord is saying, like, he wants me to sacrifice my son. As a mother, how could you take that?
Yeah, I don't think he told her. I don't think any mother's going to let their husband walk off with their child knowing he's going to kill him. There's no way.
Yeah.
There's no way. And as far as Mary with Jesus, that really upsets me. I mean,
you talk about this quite a bit.
Yeah, because I mean, I feel like when Jesus was beat and hung on that cross, I'm not worthy of that, because the pain and the suffering he went through is just so horrific. But Mary, I just could not imagine seeing him drag my baby up the hill. I don't care that he was
Margie's the one every year. They'd be like, oh, we got to watch The Passion. We got to watch The Passion, which I like to watch it every year, but it'll get close. It'll get close, and she'll be like, yeah, we got to watch it. So we we turn it on, we start watching it, and by the time it gets to the trial and the
he starts striking
crucifixion.
Yep, Mary sees it
as soon as the torture starts, she's like, we got to turn it off. And I think you actually did turn it off last time. And I was like, but because I'm the type of person, like, I gotta see this. Like, it's so important for me to experience it. Like, I have to, as much as I can understand and see it, I want to know. I want to experience that at least once a year. I want to experience that, because you don't truly realize what he did for us in that moment.
And then
but then you as a mother,
so much worse than what we see on the Passion.
But you as a mother, as opposed to a father, you have such a different outlook on it. And I mean, I'm not saying that I've never noticed it. Yeah, Mary's there and she's crying, but it's kind of, for me, it's like, yeah, it's kind of dramatic. Of course she is. Why wouldn't she be? But you really
you as
focus
a mother,
on that.
As soon as you see that, your kid pops into your head. As a mom, you see your kid. That could be my Charlie. That could be my Seth. That could be my Spencer.
Mm-hmm.
And just that whole thought will just make me bawl. And I mean, it upsets me that Jesus did that for us. Like, it's just so bad. But to think that was her child.
Mm-hmm.
And again,
because nobody else experiences it like that. Mary is the only one that can experience it from that point of view.
Yeah.
She knows he's the Savior.
Yeah.
But that doesn't matter.
No,
I mean, it's still her baby.
That's her baby.
So she's the only one that ever, except maybe for God himself, that experiences it in quite that way.
Right. And I shouldn't speak for a man, but I still don't think that there's, which God, that's a whole different thing. But but for a father, as a mother, I just think we have a closer bond with our kids. And it's because we've carried them, we've nursed them. And it's not like if something happens to your child, you're not going to be extremely upset. But I don't know, there's just something about being their mom. That's just, it puts it at a different level. And I'm not downgrading fathers by any means. If you've lost a child, that has to be so bad. But those are our babies. I don't know. It's just different.
Mm-hmm.
At least for me. I don't like to speak for other people because I'm a very, very emotional woman, mother, wife, everything. I get upset. That's just who I am. And I care so much about everything. From my children to my cat.
Well, and you're probably right about Abraham, because he doesn't tell Isaac either.
Yeah.
Because Isaac's like, so where's the offering? And he's like, well, and Abraham just says, the Lord will provide the offering. Don't worry about it. All the while he knows, and it's like a 50, 60 mile journey that they're on. So this isn't like some short trip up the hill from the house that he's going to do this. I mean, he's actually told to go on this journey.
Well, think how wonderful of a child he is to his father then to actually just go on that journey. Question that a little bit, but keep going.
Yeah.
You know dang well if that was any of my three boys, it'd be like, they'd get suspicious right away.
Mm-hmm.
Be like, I'm going back home with mom.
Yeah. Why ain't mom coming?
Yeah, I don't trust this.
Why
I'm
we
going
leaving
back. Yeah. But what a just a great kid that he's like, listen to everything dad says. He's going along.
Mm-hmm.
That my boys would not have.
Yeah. And it doesn't even say it's a point of sacrifice, because, Abraham bounds him and, lays him on the offering. I mean, it's right. It's a point of, knife point, or however he was choosing to do that. And it seems as though Isaac just submitted to what his father was going to do. So yeah, it's extraordinary to think that, what's Abraham going to say when he gets home? What's he going to tell? I mean, at that point, I suppose he has to tell her the truth, but still, I mean, can you imagine if he'd had to go through it and have an agonizing 50, 60 mile journey back home? But God was testing Abraham. The angel at the last moment, the angel of the Lord is going to come out and say, don't touch that child. You have proven yourself. You have proven your faith by doing, again, exactly as God has told you to do. And that's all that God was looking for there. God knew that there was no point in time where Abraham was going to actually sacrifice his son, but it was something that God had put him to the test to do. And it's just interesting that he does that, knowing that at some point God is going to sacrifice his own son for the world. Yeah. And sometimes you wonder, was this like some preparation for God himself, to test man and to test himself and to, knowing that, because he had to know before he had asked Abraham to do that at some point, yes, Jesus was going to be crucified. So that's interesting to think about too, is just, what God was thinking in that moment, and watching Abraham respond to that in the way that he did. It's pretty extraordinary.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah. And a lot of times these, again, a lot of these stories, we read them in Bible school when we're young, and like, oh yeah, well, he took him up to the mountain and he almost sacrificed him. And we don't they're great stories, and that's the way we look at them as children, and especially a lot of Old Testament stuff, you hear about it and you're like, yeah, I know that story. Heard it 100 times, but you just don't really think about the emotions and the faith behind these things, that real people had to go through it. Like I said, it wasn't like he just took him up on the hill behind the house. Like, he had to go through this agonizing 50, 60 mile on foot.
Yeah.
Knowing that, this is what was before him.
Right.
And until the angel of the Lord stops him, he thinks this is what I got to do.
Well, yeah. And as a child, you don't understand the emotions as an adult. You don't understand the love you have for your children when you're that child. And that's why children do so many things that they could get killed, because they just don't understand. But we adults and moms and dads, you get all that. So these stories are just so much different when we get to this point in our life.
Yeah.
Like, wow.
And Abraham didn't lie to Isaac, because once the angel of the Lord said, don't touch him, well, there was a ram caught in the thicket. So when Abraham said, don't worry, the Lord will provide the sacrifice, well, he didn't lie. I mean, the Lord did. There ended up being a ram caught up in the thicket, and that's what they ended up sacrificing. So,
that's why God has men do these things.
He did speak the truth, but although it was kind of like, roundabout, but yeah.
But we are so wired differently. Men and women are so wired differently, because I couldn't kill the ram. You know what I'm saying? Like we're just so, you could.
Now what do we do?
You could. Like,
Yeah.
I think you could, but I don't know that I could.
Yeah.
And, through all that, if that would have happened and he would have sacrificed his son, I think she could have gotten through that because she didn't know about it. She wasn't there. And now she just has to put her whole faith in God through all that.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't think for 1 second could God tell a woman, I need you to sacrifice your kid. Because is there anywhere in the Bible that a mom has ever had to do anything to harm their children? I mean, Mary, she didn't have anything to do with harming him. She just couldn't stop it. And she knew that.
Yeah, she understood it.
She did.
Yeah.
But
she knew there was going to be time that he was going to grow up and he was going to start his mission. And and whether she had to come to that realization just like the disciples did, perhaps she did. But she knew.
She did, but I don't think she knew. She knew, but she knew.
Well, like any human being, you could think, okay, well, he's going to be crucified for us. But could she have imagined the whippings and the pain and could she have really processed all that?
No, because even though it was for all of us as a mother, you'd have tried to hide him underneath a rock and keep him safe.
Yeah.
She wouldn't have known the day, the time, how it was done, because if she did, as a mom, you would have tried everything to stop that. I truly believe that, even with God telling you. Maybe I'm wrong. I could be wrong, but we're just wired so different. You could be. I mean, and God has made us this way. God made me this way. You know what I mean? Like, we're just, we're so much different. And he did that on purpose. He made us, we're the compassionate, caring one. And not that men aren't, you are so much more than some men. But that's just the difference in us.
Well, us men joke at work. We'll talk about our women and be like, we had to go to Home Depot and she put me in the flower garden and then she wanted to go here and we worked on this and, we didn't get any time to just sit down and watch TV and being honest, that's how men talk about their women. Like, you push us. But I will always say, like, well, perhaps that's a sign is when you have a good woman is when you're constantly being pushed, because otherwise us men wouldn't do anything. We were just like, a lot of times, we would spend our Saturdays on the couch instead of getting things done. And so if that's one telltale sign, if you have a good woman, is if she's pushing you to do things and, keeping you motivated, because otherwise, I mean,
and again, it's the way we're wired, because you know me, I want to sit down. I want to watch a movie. I want to do that stuff, but I can't.
But you can't.
I cannot. No. Things have to be done. Things have to be accomplished.
Yeah. And not that you treat me like a child, but it's almost
really?
But it's almost an extension of that. It's almost you're looking after me the same
way.
That
sometimes.
I do. Because emotions can run high and you get frustrated, and men don't always see why things are so important. I mean, we do. I mean, I do in my work life. Like, I take that like very, very seriously. What I do at work, like, I'm on top of everything. I don't let anything go. I'm just focus. So when I get home, I want to hit the couch. It's just, again, but maybe that's how men are wired. Like, after, all this adrenaline and all this stuff all day long, it's like, we want to sit down. But yes, it's almost an extension. Like, you're looking after me almost in the same way you look after your kids. It's a little bit different of a dynamic, but in nature, it's the same thing. Mm-hmm. Like, you don't think I'm excelling by sitting. You think it's like you constantly, another big thing about you and I, besides being able to talk about God, was kind of just like your Aunt Florence. Like, you saw my potential. You were like, Nick, the way you're living is just stupid. Like, you're doing a lot of dumb stuff. Like, you looked at my finances. You're like, Nick, this is stupid. Like, what are you doing? What have you been doing? I'm like, I don't know, just having a good time. Like, just I get paid. I find something fun to do on the weekend. What's wrong with that? And maybe there doesn't seem to be anything wrong with that. But when you're getting into your mid-30s and 40s, you ain't got nothing in the bank.
No
problem.
Retirement?
Yeah, there's no retirement. I'm thinking, I ain't going to live that long to worry about retirement. Why should I worry about that? So it's like, and that's one of the reasons why I'm like, I know she's the right one, because she's looking after me. She's not just with me to have something to do or to enjoy free time. And you can see the potential in me and be like, okay, you were just really honest. Like, you're just doing a lot of dumb stuff.
Well, and
that was hard for me.
But I was nice, like your potential even for work, where you worked before this last job.
Mm-hmm.
They did not know what they had, and I told you that before, and that was a blessing. That was through one of our hardest times that all came to pass, because it's when your dad passed away is when you got a new job. Well, directly after that.
Well, they didn't want to pay me bereavement.
They didn't pay you bereavement, and but they never even paid you that much hourly to start off with.
No.
They didn't know your work.
For as long as I've been there, no.
And now, where you're at, they know your work.
Yeah.
They keep giving you pay raises. Yeah. They tell you all the time how lucky they are to have you. And
it was a complete 180.
Yeah, as hard as this job as you have right now, at least you are blessed with people that see your potential, and they even want to move you up at some point. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, that's a huge thing.
Yeah.
And I was not happy with your last job, just because.
And I'm like, almost like, well, what's the big deal? I love the people I work with. I worked with them for years. Like, I'm comfortable. I'm comfortable with my hours. I don't have to get up till 7:30, and I could be up at 7:30 and be worked by 8. Like, that's what I was thinking.
Yeah,
about.
That I miss.
I do too.
Yeah,
trust me.
That, but
that's where my mind was like, oh, it's a big deal. It's a job. I've been there a long time. I could probably be there for the rest of my life. Like I said, it's great. I can wake up at 7:30, be there by 8.
But not even so much the pay. The owner of that place didn't even tell you did a great job. He would just push you then.
It was the opposite.
Well, hey, if you did this well, I want you to do this well. Mm-hmm. But we're not going to say, hey, Nick, you did a great job. Hey, Nick, we're going to give you a pay raise because you should.
He overheard one of my supervisors, heard the foreman one time. Supervisor told him, like, Nick's been concentrating on this customer in this job, and he's doing a really good job keeping it all organized. And the owner looked right at him and said, don't you ever tell him that again.
Yeah.
Like that, he was like, you don't tell your people they're doing a great job.
And the head of where you work right now just said what to you?
Yeah.
The top guy where you work said what to you? What did Dave just say to you?
Oh, yeah. He's just, because I hear thank you so much now. It's almost like I take it for granted. I'll just say that.
Yeah, which you shouldn't.
But I was like, oh, thanks. And he goes, Nick, no, really. He goes, stop for a second. He's like, I really want you to know how much I appreciate everything you're doing. So it just went beyond the simple, hey, thanks, and really appreciate it. I mean, he was like, stop. Like, don't just say thank you. Oh, yeah, thanks. Yeah. Like, he really wanted me to know.
And this is the president. This is the top guy of where you
so I was like, so I was kind of like, oh, I'm like, well, my pleasure. I'm like.
Yeah, that's who you are.
Yeah. So, yeah, that's a big deal. But that wouldn't have happened without.
No.
A little motherly guidance.
Yeah. Yeah. But if you'd listened to me, you'd have quit that job right then and there. So at least you have a little bit more sense than I do.
Like I said, what did I say at the beginning? Like, you'll fire it right off. Like, and I'm always like, whoa, wait a minute.
Yeah.
The kettle don't need to boil over. Let's just.
And sometimes that makes
let's simmer a little bit, and then we'll figure it out. Because most times it's like, I know you're right, but it's like,
we got to figure it out.
We got to think about timing here. God's timing. We got to think about timing because, done plenty of things in our lives and we're like, didn't do God's timing.
Yeah.
So just like, just got to stop and think a little bit. But you're usually right, though. I mean,
thank you.
So you just are. So.
Thank you.
but yeah, so I think that about wraps it up for this episode. Abraham and Sarah. Sarah will end up passing away. I think Abraham will get married again. And so the family dynamic will continue to be complex as you read through the Bible, as you read through Genesis. And maybe we'll come back to it at some point. But God's will was good. I mean, Abraham followed through on his faith, and they were absolutely. Abraham will go on to have children with his other wife. I forget how many he has, but he has quite a few. So God will continue to bless that family, and it will continue to grow. So it's really...
I don't want to sound dumb, and I know I'm going to. So you only had the one son with Sarah?
Yeah,
that was
I
it?
believe
That's all
so.
that she had was the one baby?
Isaac is their miracle baby. And then she will pass, and then Abraham will marry again. And maybe they had like 7 or 8 children. They had quite a few. Of course, so they will, carry on through the story. So, yeah.
So
definitely a lot more to talk about.
But Isaac did then get everything because he was the...
Well...
Is that how that ended? I know, I'm not...
It gets complex.
I'm not good with the...
Yeah.
So I just don't know.
It gets a little complex. Isaac's going to have his difficulties too.
Which he's human, so we all do. So
I mean,
he goes
that whole that whole family is
right.
Well, I believe like the family's going to be split, and there's a lot to dig into, but it would take another episode to cover all that. No. So
okay,
yeah. So there's some good, some bad, but probably just like in every other family.
Yeah, that's what I was just going to say.
All right, well, I will go ahead and pray us out. Maybe I won't. Stand by for technical difficulties. There it is. Lord, thank you for this special moment. It's always great to come on this podcast and talk with friends and family and share all the glory that your faith brings to our lives. But to have my wife on is a truly extraordinary thing. It is definitely something that if you had asked me a long, long time ago, I never would have imagined was even possible. So I just thank you and praise you for that. I just pray that every family can get to the heart of why you love them so much and why you want them so badly to have faith in you and to let them guide you and to be the center of their lives. I pray that everyone out there who's listening to this podcast will take more time to share God with their families, sort through the complexities of life, and come to the true understanding that it is our faith in you that guides us in everything. I pray all these things in your precious name. Amen.
Hey friends, Pastor Michael again. If you've enjoyed this podcast, you should consider joining us on Sunday mornings. Our address is 1943 North Water Street Extension in Yorksville. We'd love to have you join us for an in-person service.